So this interview is brought to you by Burn It Up Coaching and the 21-Day Challenge. And specifically, if you're looking for a reignition, if you're an entrepreneur, an influencer, high performer, and you're looking for that reignition of your self-belief, your passion in your life, and you want to succeed like never before, the 21-Day Challenge is a one-on-one accountability, daily accountability for 21 days to help you achieve your top goal. You'll get clear on your long-term goals. You'll be able to break them down into bite-sized steps, and 21 days, for 21 days, you'll have specific measurable actions to be taking so that you can achieve that goal. Obviously, things will come up. You'll get distracted. Difficulties, subconscious limiting beliefs will come up, and we will handle those together, one-on-one accountability style. So you'll have daily accountability check-ins, weekly deep dives. You'll dial in your morning and your nighttime routines. So if that sounds like you, if you're ready to reignite, if you're ready for the intensity of a 21-day program that kicks your butt and gets you to the next level, the 21-Day Challenge might be the perfect thing for you. And if it is, send me a message on Facebook or email chris@beyourgps.com. Would love to talk to you and see if it's a good fit for you. It's not for everyone, but if you think it's for you, let's talk. And this interview is brought to you by our iTunes review of the week. And this week was Nada, or is Nada Hogan. Nada says, love this podcast. Chris's podcast interviews are so engaging and entertaining. Once I turn it on, I can't stop listening. Great interviews with great guests. You will not be disappointed. So Nada, thank you so much for sharing that with our audience and on the review on iTunes for reviews. We appreciate that. And if you want to give us a review, go to beyourgps.com/iTunes or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self in the iTunes store, and you can leave us a review like that. Or you can search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on Facebook and leave us a review there. Whichever you prefer, we appreciate both, and we always appreciate the feedback to grow and become our greatest possible self. So thanks in advance for doing that. And we are getting on to the main course for this hour, and it's the one, the only Mr. Ron Carucci, and he's going to bring the heat. So I'm going to introduce him and then bring him on the screen for you all. Ron is a seasoned consultant with more than 25 years of experience working with CEOs and senior executives of organizations ranging from Fortune 50s to startups in pursuit of transformational change. His consulting has taken him to more than 20 different countries on 4 continents. He has consulted to some of the world's most influential CEOs and executives on issues ranging from strategy to organization to leadership. He has worked extensively in the health sciences, biotech, and healthcare provider sectors, and in the technology, consumer products, and retail food and beverage industries. He has led work on several large-scale merger integrations and subsequent culture change initiatives and enterprise-level global organization redesigns. This dude is playing at a huge level, and his company is incredible. And Ron specializes in the areas of strategy formulation, helping companies establish strategic direction in a collaborative fashion that builds ownership, global organization design, and enterprise governance, helping organizations configure capabilities and decision-making processes to execute strategy, organizational change, designing comprehensive approaches to enrolling organizations into the transformation journey, executive leadership development, building deeply impacting solutions to build individual and enterprise leadership capability across generations, and enterprise talent strategy, building integrated HR mechanisms to help create competitively differentiated talent solutions for selection, development, and succession. So this guy is really bringing the heat. He's absolutely shining and making a difference in so many organizations. Ron, are you ready to rock this, brother?
Let's have a good time here, Chris. Let's have a good time.
That's right. We are already having a great time, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show today. We appreciate you.
Good to be here. We gotta fix that bio, man. There's way too much jargon in there.
I was reading. I was like, okay, cool.
I think somebody sent you like the 2010 version. That was my apologies.
It's all good.
You can do better than that.
It's all good. It was very detailed. I love the detail. That's nice. I love it. So we're gonna dive right in, Ron, to the theme of the day, which is today radical self-expression. So we want to know, how does this concept of radical self-expression play a role in your life? How has it made a difference for you? How has it shaped your life?
Well, gosh, that there's so many ways that term yeah, I mean, in some ways, isn't any true version of self-expression is radical, right? If you're doing it,
Wow.
it ought to be differentiated, because a lot of people are their expression is not of self, but it's some imitation of themselves. And so I think if you truly are expressing your authentic self, there's something radical about that. First of all, the courage to do it,
Yeah.
the courage to let it shine, and the courage to not flinch the judgments that are going to come back at you. That is radical in today's world that teaches people how to hide and fear and be anxious about how people are going to perceive you and judge you. And so, if you can bring most of who you are to the world and feel good about expressing it and feel confident that somebody needs to hear what you have to say, that's pretty radical.
I agree. And like you said, there's so much judgment, so much, people trying to impress with social media and these different outlets of self-expression. But through the self-expression, it's almost like there's a feedback mechanism of, was that self-expression worthy? Was it powerful? Was it good enough? A lot of people are asking that question, and now that we're at the point where there's self-expression and authenticity, but it's going overboard, where people are trying to do it too much, and it's like fake authenticity just to get the attention or to try to fit in being authentic. Which it's a fun dance that we're doing here. But I really love this discussion already, Ron, and you are doing incredible things, man. Navalent is just like absolutely changing the game for a lot of different companies and organizations, big organizations, and you're working with big organizations. And for anyone who doesn't yet know more about you, why don't you share firsthand what you guys do at Navalent?
Yeah, so we are very privileged. We get to spend every day of our lives traipsing the halls of organizations alongside leaders of all kinds who want something better. They want something bigger. They want something more. Maybe they've gotten themselves in a ditch. Maybe they're trying to avoid a ditch. Maybe there's an opportunity out there that they can't quite get. And our job is to be their Sherpa. Our job is to come alongside them and help craft a path that gets them from here to there, even though it's probably going to be hard.
Yeah.
There's probably some speed bumps and some bigger mountains they may have climbed. Maybe they avoided this for a long time. And so now there's an invoice due, right, of some effort they've been putting off. Whatever that is, we get the very audacious privilege of helping to craft that path forward for them and their organizations. And it's not just about inspiration. There's a lot of science behind what it takes to take a collection of human beings that share the same four walls and the same organizational name and move them to a different place from where they are. There's a lot of individual stuff that has to happen. There's a lot of relational stuff that has to happen. There's a lot of systemic stuff that has to happen. And it all has to happen at the same time if the change is really going to stick. And to be the one at the, in the co-pilot seat with a leader to help them figure that out is a privileged place.
Man, I am so in admiration of you and what you're doing, because you are like, 20 years ahead of me, so to speak, in terms of what you're doing. I'm working with solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, high achievers, like one-on-one mainly. It's really cool to be able to do that. And you're doing this not just with one person, but entire organizations, and being able to execute that change and that transformation. So I just want to say, from where I'm standing, Ron, kudos for everything that you're doing and who you are. It's really incredible, and I'm grateful to be here with you. I'm grateful to be learning from you, and I'm also grateful my audience gets to learn from you as well. And I know this is going to be a great interview because you're very brilliant, and we're going to cover a lot of really cool stuff in this. So thanks again.
That's very kind of you, because I actually literally just finished a 2-hour call. I also run a small group here for small business solopreneurs.
Oh, wow.
And we call it peer group. Peer stands for provoke, invite, explore, restore. And these are all solopreneurs starting to make their way in the world. And so I just got off a 2-hour Zoom call with them, and we meet every 2 weeks. Wow. And I mentor and coach and kick butt and help them. So I know the world that you spend your life in, and I have a lot of admiration and energy for people who are either just beginning and making their way in the world, or that's how they chose to express themselves as individuals. Or there are small business entrepreneurs who have dreams of scaling to greatness one day. Yes. But wherever they're on the path, I love to cheer them on.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Ron, you are like absolutely shining your light, making an impact, like implementing change and making a huge difference. But I'm sure it wasn't always this great. So we want to dive back into the journey of how you got to where you are today. So how did you get into consulting? What was that journey like? Let's fill in our listeners right now.
Well, so, first of all, I began my career in a very different field. I began my career in the arts. Wow. And trained for a very different kind of profession. But I was very fortunate to learn early on that I bore easily. So I was in New York training for a really important profession in the arts. And my friends would be like, whoa, you got that job. Wow. And I'd be like, I have to do the same thing 8 times more. So I left New York, took a break, decided to maybe test my wings in something else that was a little bit less monotonous, or a little bit like I had started early in my career. I was good at what I did, but I knew I'm like, this is going to be hard to love this for a long time. Yeah. So I took a job with a company that actually used a variety of medium to tell stories, and it blended the arts and learning, right? So it used a variety of medium to help people learn. Mm-hmm. I found that interesting. I was in Europe working with them. I was in my early 20s, and we were at, of all places, Dachau. Mm-hmm. And in ironically, the chapel at Dachau. Wow. Before the East and the West merged again. Mm-hmm. But we had a variety of people in the room, of civilians and military and State Department and Germans and Americans and some East German looking officials who are preparing for the reunification. Uh-huh. And there wasn't a term called diversity and inclusion back then, but right. If it had been, that's probably what this workshop would have been called. Wow. And we were in a conversation, and a young American military guy stood up and in very authentic and raw pain expressed that he said, I'm just so tired of being trained to hate. Mm. And I was really struck. I mean, my first thought was, how did something I do up here make him think that? Mm. But then I wanted to know more. So we had a great conversation with the room, and then I wanted to still know more. So you're in Munich, right? So you go out for beer. That's what you do. So we went out afterwards. He probably wasn't much older than me. And I think, Chris, that was probably a turning point in my career. I don't know that I named it at the time, but I thought, telling great stories is interesting, but helping people rewrite their own story and engaging in their story, that's exciting. Yeah. Like, that's never going to be boring. Yeah. And I think that was probably the place in my career where I began to turn. And I came back to the States and got my graduate degree in organizational behavior and began my career in this new field. Mm-hmm. That who knew it was a whole field, right? But I was taking jobs in large companies, and the problem was I had this nasty habit of telling the truth. And sometimes in big companies that doesn't go over well. Right. And so I started, at that point I had young kids, and I started to collect things that my kids really loved. I started to collect severance packages. They knew that meant more time with dad. Right. But I after like the third time, I think I realized, what? So it turns out these companies don't really have me there to try and drive great improvements in performance the way they said they did. Mm-hmm. Bless their hearts. Right. So what gets me kind of a little bit in trouble politically inside these companies actually gets me paid pretty well and respected outside of them. So I guess in order for me to live out and embody my passion for organizations, it's going to have to be by not being part of one. Mm. And so I began to work outside of organizations and consulting to them. Yeah. Because then I could actually affect the kinds of changes that I wanted. Was that a difficult transition for you to make? No, it was a relief. Yeah. Yeah. Finally, I get it. Took me one too many times to figure it out. What was difficult was I began in my own practice as a solopreneur, but I realized that at that point in my mid-30s, I probably wasn't going to have enough of the goods to go 30 more years on my own. I probably didn't have enough stuff. I could sell a lot of stuff, right. But to focus on really making a difference at the most influential parts of organizations, I didn't have enough experience. So I realized that it took me a year to make this decision, but I needed to go to a consulting firm that really had the gravitas to teach me that. And although one of the most difficult career decisions I made, probably the best one I made, was to go take a job at a wonderful firm in New York City. I spent about 8 years there. Wow. And then that firm got sold to a bigger firm. And when that happened, then it stopped being fun. We were there in this boutique firm. It was about 80, 90 people, but we loved the craft. Making change happen was, we lived and breathed every day to do that. Now, as part of a much giant global firm, it's more about feed the dinosaur.
Yeah.
And that just, for us, it was like, that's not fun. And so 3 of us said, hey, we could still have this dream. We could still love this craft. We can go do this on our own. And that's 14 years ago, Navilant was born.
Wow. And what was the criteria for the 3 people? How did you know those 3 would be, you were one of them. How did you know the other 2 were a good fit or not a good fit?
Well, so 2 of us are still here. I think we loved each other.
Yeah.
We loved the work. We enjoyed working together. It was really naive. There was no sense of, hey, let's go build a firm. That was never the vision. It was more of a, let's go do this together. The person who's the 3rd managing partner now came about a year in to that. And I think, if you watch the videos about we talk about our work on our website, we talk about the fact that we love each other and we love the work, and that changes the work. And it makes it more impacting. And so I think for us, at 14 years old now, we're trying to grow up. We have now a bunch of younger consultants who are looking ahead in their career. And so we're still going through our own evolution and my own mitosis of identity.
Right.
And trying to figure out what does it mean for the future. But I think the thing we come back to is we created a firm that could serve our dreams, that we would never have to be enslaved to, that could help us serve our families and our communities, but also serve each other. And I think it's done that well. But now I think the world changed. So in 14 years, the thing I think that's really been a challenge for us is, when we began this work, organizational consulting and leadership consulting was not a center plate, major, widespread discipline.
Right.
It was done. Right. But in 14 years, Chris, I mean, droves of gazillions have entered the playing field, claiming to do this work the same way. Yeah. And suddenly, the playing field landscape has dramatically changed. And how we participate on it, how we differentiate on it, how we compete on it, it's G-forces, right? And that's what we're trying to figure out now. And 3 years ago, I hired a coach for me because I realized, what? I need to take my own medicine here.
Totally. And
I need to get some help. And it was the best decision I ever made. Yeah. And I've learned a ton in 3 years. Mostly what I've learned is how much I don't know.
What was your criteria in selecting a coach?
She's awesome. She understood the questions I had. I stalked her on LinkedIn and stalked, her work. And the question I had was, how do I differentiate my own voice and my own ideas from among millions? It didn't used to be that way, and I didn't used to have to do that. And I thought I had done everything they were supposed to do. Where if you write it, they will come. If you think it, they will come. Turns out that's not how it works. And not only were the things I thought I had done not the right things to do, I wasn't even in the right galaxy. I was so far apart from what it takes to establish, social proof that your ideas are worth adopting. Right. Wow. It's kind of scary. And at this, I'm not a beginner, right? So at this point in my career, it's a little bit difficult to hear this. But I'm like, okay, I'll dig deep. And now we're in our 3rd year of work together, and it's been extraordinary, and it's making a big difference. And my firm is learning from it as well. And but you're never, no matter where you're at in your career, you're always a beginner at something.
Wow, it's beautiful. So you hired the coach, made a huge difference for you. You're a product of the product. I love that. I heard in the journey, you were really good at what you did. Like, early on, it was just natural. And then as time evolved, more and more players entered the space. And it's like, okay, so you're helping out these organizations, and there's always the process of getting new organizations to help and facilitate with, while also growing your own company. So to be able to do both of those things, bring on new people, find new organizations, you have to be effective in your marketing and your sales and your brand identity that keeps growing and attracting more clients.
You first have to believe it's important to do it. Then and that was a little bit of a struggle for us, right? Because so much of our business was referral based, and people loved our work, and we were making huge differences. So CEOs would leave one company, go to another, and they'd take us with them, or executives would move. So our need to do all those things you so eloquently described, there was a whole lot of felt pain there. Now I'm looking down the pike going, as the Grim Reaper going, this is not sustainable. And, we've never, we've been very blessed and fortunate that we've never financially struggled, or, we've always had plenty of money to pay the bills. But again, we're not one of those firms that sets ever increasing hockey stick goals. Every year we call our goals dreaming. So we sit around and we do our dreaming sessions. Yeah. We talk about what we each want for that year and what we want for our lives and our families and our work and our professional contributions and our economic realities. And when we add up our economic realities and aspirations, and there are tremendous benefits to that, but there's a downside, right? How do you create collectivism from the sum total of everybody's individual dreams? And that's the fine line which we're still trying to learn and walk. And now we've done the work, we've invested, we've hired experts to come in and help us, and our platform is growing and our content marketing is working, and so there's nascent muscles that are forming now. But my gosh, Cowboys kids have no shoes is true, and the change management firm was learning how to change.
Yeah, that's so powerful, man. I love it. Well, thank you for sharing so, behind the scenes and so real. I love it. And I think that people who are listening right now are going to be like, damn, Ron, that is like, I get that. I feel that. I see that in my own company and business and organization. So I think that a lot of people are going to be able to relate to that. So let's dive into more about what Navolent does specifically and the methodology or really the pillars that you want people to understand and walk away. So if they're in their own phases of growth or change management, that they can successfully navigate those.
So, we sit at the intersection of three really important realities of organizations: strategy, organization, and leadership. And, so often, especially in small businesses, one of the things that so many small businesses fail to recognize is the question of identity. They think because they were just one. Well, first of all, the word solopreneur is a struggle for me, Chris, because I'm not sure there's ever really a such thing. You're never alone. You outsource your IT, someone does your website. Yep. Cleaning. You have a team. Yeah. They may not be on your payroll, but you have a team. So, we're never really solopreneurs, even if we're the only ones we're paying. Right. But you may have, 10 employees or however big you are or small you are, you have to know what swim lane you belong in. So the question of identity is, whenever I work with startups, I'll say, well, so tell me about your strategy. I get the mission statement. I get the vision statement. I get the product quota. I get Costco called, here's the order, that's the strategy. And I'm like, okay, that's all very interesting. That doesn't tell me who you are. Tell me why somebody would choose you over somebody else who does what you do. Tell me why you have a right to win a new customer or client from somebody else who may be equally as good at what you do. And they get stumped. And or I get the that strategy stuff, that's for big companies. We're not that. We're too small for strategy. And I'm like, that's a death march. That's a death march. It's more important for you because you're small. Right. You are so tempted to say yes to everything. You'll chase every dollar that comes in the door. You feel compelled to have to take care of on every piece of business and never say no. Wow. No is every entrepreneur's most painful word to say. And so all the more reason why you got to stick to you figure out what your swim lane is and stick to it. So but it's no different in big companies. Big companies still lose their way in terms of identity, but they're on autopilot. There's lots of, sales are coming in, whatever the sales force is selling, that's a strategy. And so getting a sense of your identity, who are you and what are you saying no to? Who are you not? Is the first major question. But then you have the question of organization, right? So what entrepreneurs quickly realize, especially I see this, they got their Series A money. Now they've gone from 5 people to 50 people, and they're so proud of that. And it's all mayhem. And the entrepreneur will look over and go, look at all that energy. They're so excited. I'm like, actually, no, they're actually being driven crazy, and they're exhausted. And you have to realize that you have to bring some order to that chaos. Yeah. That's not just entrepreneurial startup energy to be proud of. You're actually depleting those resources because you've made them all do all the work. And by virtue of the fact that you haven't brought some order to that, you've decided that all the work is created equal. And all work is not equal. All people are equal. We should all be nice to each other, But you've now got to have mitosis in your organization and begin to divide up the work, right? You've got to begin to put boundaries around what's the work that if you invest $1 in that work, $5 comes in the door. That's your competitive work. That's the work that makes you special, that people are going to choose you for. What's the work that directly supports that work, that enables it to happen? And then 50% of the work is necessary. It keeps the lights on, it keeps you out of jail, but you don't have to do it better than anybody else. And the minute you mix the necessary work with the competitive work, all hell breaks loose and the competitive work just gets diluted. Wow. So you have to begin to bring organization to the work and where you invest it. And you have to organize the necessary work for maximum efficiency. Standardization, repeatability, automation, least cost. And you say the word process and standardization to an entrepreneur, they start to twitch. It's like they have to scratch. No, don't tell us bureaucracy. And it's the greatest gift you'll ever have is standardization.
No,
if that's where your scaling is, that's how you can scale.
I love it because I was talking about in a video the other week saying how much I used to hate corporations, right? Just the thought of corporations, the thought of bureaucracy, the thought of a cubicle just like irked me. But then I realized, wait a second, we need that. At some point, like I'm a CEO and I'm directing a team and they're going to be in the position that I was so resentful of. So if I'm resenting that and I bring that with me, it's not going to work. So it's like we need that to create massive results or products or services or transformation in the world. So it's like it's important to heal that as entrepreneurs, saying, there's a time and a place for it. May not be for you right now, or you may not, what's the word? It may not be like your cup of tea to go work a quote unquote 8 to 5, but it still serves a purpose in you being able to make the maximum impact, grow your profits, and have a team and be able to support people's livelihood.
Well, and if you have a team and they're working, it doesn't have to mean it's boring. You're going to have people come to your workplace and do the same thing a different way every single day. And shame on it. It's just go light the money on fire. And so, yes, it does have to be monotonous and bureaucratic and political and all the things that we associate big companies with. But it does have to be efficient and scalable and repeatable so that you can whatever your secret sauce is can be your secret sauce. Yeah. But if you're reinventing the recipe for a secret sauce every single time you make it, at some point somebody's gonna go, "Who are you?" And I don't want to pay you anymore. And it's so difficult for so many entrepreneurs to accept that and to be disciplined in how they focus and what they say no to. So assuming you've solved the question of identity, assuming you've solved the question of organization, now you have a question of leadership. Right? If all roads lead to you, if all decisions lead to you, if you're not building leaders underneath you, you also can't scale. And if suddenly you're pressed with having to realize that I don't have a team, I've made all the decision makers, now I have to layer over people because I have not grown up leaders underneath me to come with me on the growth journey, then you failed them, right? And they feel passed over and they feel betrayed and they feel used, while all these new people are arriving from outside who didn't, they don't have all the scar tissue of the startup days to prove they're worthy of being there, and now you resent them, right? But you can begin that work of strategy, organization, and leadership from day one. And if you build in the disciplines, and most entrepreneurs, they struggle they're so busy working in the business, they can't step back to work on the business. Yep. And they've got to learn to do that. They've got to learn. It's not something you do once a year, right? You've got to make working on the business, the annual strategy flu shot, right? Right.
Like 1 hour every year. We're good.
What's our dream? What's our vision? Great. Good. Now, who's making the sale next week? So you've got to make it a routine part of your discipline to stay at the right altitude and keep your eye focused on the future. Because if you're not minding that store, nobody is.
What does that look like practically? Like what kind of a weekly or monthly structure would you recommend to be able to review what's working, what's not working, that kind of thing?
So practically, if you have a small team of people around you, make sure that there's times when you meet that you're not talking about anything that's going to happen in the next 6 months. Wow. Push your planning horizon, your forecasting horizon, your anticipatory horizon out as far as you possibly can. In the early days, maybe it's 3 months. Right. But if you're talking about stuff that's going to happen that week, that means somebody else is not talking about it because they don't have to. Right? So you've got to keep your time horizons far out. The other thing is you've got to be looking outside. You've got to learn to read context. So what discipline, what disruptor have you told yourself doesn't apply to you? Oh, that's not going to be AI. Not going to be a problem for us. Lean in hard, right? Whatever you're in denial about, be worried about.
Wow.
So spend time studying what are the customers of our future look like? What are the technologies of our future look like? Right?
Wow.
Hospitality never saw Airbnb coming. Livery and taxi cabs never saw Uber coming. Why? Why didn't they? Right? So accountants don't believe AI as they take their jobs. Well, they are. So somewhere along, why didn't Navalent 10 years ago realize, hey, people are going to find this space pretty sexy at some point. A bunch of executives are going to want to leave their jobs and come out and say they consult in leadership. Now everybody and their mother's a coach.
Yeah.
Why didn't we see it coming? You know why, Chris? We didn't ask.
Mm.
We were good at what we did. We thought we were all that in a bag of chips. We didn't stop and go, hey, it's getting pretty crowded out here. Didn't even give it a thought. So force yourself, especially when you have a lot of tailwinds and a lot of success. That's the time to especially say, what ditch am I not seeing? What opportunity am I not going after? Or am I missing? What table am I? What's it like to work with us? What can we do better at? As a leader, if you're not being calibrated and your people are not telling you how they're experiencing your leadership, or worse, you think you know, danger zone. You're flying without radar. Get radar. Get calibrated on what you believe to be true about your impact, and make sure that your intent and your impact actually somewhat match. So those are some really simple disciplines you can introduce to the rhythms of your business to just keep on top of the future before it gets on top of you.
Yeah, that's so powerful, man. I love all these, and especially the when you're already having success and things are going well, to have that kind of devil's advocate perspective of, hey, we're doing awesome, and what are we missing right now? What are we not seeing? What is the opportunity that we're totally not capitalizing on that could come back around and bite us in the ass if we don't make a move on it, if we don't really spend some time and energy and effort doing the research, doing the market research, the field research, the understanding of what's really going on in the marketplace.
And if you've got more than 5 employees, somebody's bitching about it. Somebody is sitting at their desk or at their laptop or in the coffee shop or whatever they're working, going, "This is so stupid. Why are we doing this?" And that's gold for you, right? Maybe you can't act upon it. Maybe it's just whining, but there could be a nugget of truth in that discontent. Your discontent or your people's discontent is one of your greatest assets.
Wow.
It doesn't mean you have to act upon every one of them. Don't be Santa Claus and try and make them all happy. Your job as a leader is to disappoint people at a rate they can absorb, right? But if you're not listening to their discontent about you or something that's going on, and engaging them and helping to fix it, then you are wasting an asset.
Wow. Yeah, I see the innovation of, pain. When there's suffering or things that aren't working well, that's where the innovation comes from. That's where the new ideas come from. And if we're not paying attention to that pain or the chatter at those, let's say, lower levels or employee level, if we're not paying attention to that, then it could be going on other big that we can't even compete with it. There could be a solution that comes out, and we're just we're not paying attention to it. We're staying in our own lane. But it's important to be able to listen to those small complaints or the small pains, just to be aware of them and be aware that, hey, there might be stuff going on where people are finding solutions to this that we could integrate and be able to succeed at a faster rate. Or we better be watching out just in case something comes and blindsides us and takes out, let's say, a division or an arm of our business that completely cripples us.
Yep. And if those people who are making the complaints are employees and they're not being heard, rest assured they're going to take those complaints somewhere else and go work for your competitor. So if you have no mechanism by which to hear them, then make one.
Beautiful.
Because no news is good news is not a thing.
Don't believe it. Oh my gosh, I love it. So in terms of brands understand who they are. They understand their identity. We've got some processes in place to be able to understand, are we on the right track? Are we not on the right track? What would you say is the number one thing that gets people from where they are to where they want to go? There's the dreaming process. There's the goal setting process. What do we do to speed that up? What's the catalyst to get there faster? How do we do the continuous process improvement to get to our goals faster? What would you recommend for that?
So all great dreams devolve into real work, right? In smaller organizations, focus is hard because you're jack of all trades, master of none, right? And so, the reality is the practical work of translating a desire to be somewhere into concrete steps. It's stunning to me how often it eludes people. Yeah. They just can't, spend the money, make the time, make the sacrifices, do what's necessary to say, well, this is what you want, this is what it's going to take. And either they're naive about that, they just sort of underestimate the level of tenacity and effort and investment it's going to take, or they give up, right? They get fatigued, or it's the classic squirrel,
right.
New sexy shiny object, they just go chase the next thing. Yeah. They flit. But the discipline, it's not typically because the idea was bad that they wound up in a ditch. It's because the people didn't follow through.
Yeah.
They didn't put the right resources behind it. They didn't have the right voices at the table. There wasn't enough compulsion to do it in the first place. Mm-hmm. They're usually missing very basic ingredients.
Yeah.
When an aspiration is not realized. It's not because it was a bad aspiration or it was the wrong aspiration. Sometimes that happens. Mm-hmm. You had no business having that dream. It's a great dream, but for some other company, not yours.
Right.
But usually the problem is typically that we didn't stick to it. We didn't have the discipline when it got really hard to stay the course, do the work, build the muscle. It's like, people go to the gym and, I'm 40 pounds overweight, I need to lose weight. A week later, I went to the gym for a whole week, nothing happened. Okay. And nothing was supposed to, other than you get used to being at the gym. But we have we've been conditioned to think that change is instantaneous, it's quick, it's easy. Instagram has taught us we can be overnight sensations.
Yeah.
People don't run. It does take 10 years to be an overnight sensation.
Yep.
And so, the challenge is that people don't come with the right level of tenacity, the right level of understanding of what commitment really means to see a goal through, and to recognize that you're going to have to dig deep, produce some more grit than you may have had to produce before, get the right people around you, and just, it's so cliche, right, Chris? We all hear the stories of you got to just never give up, but when it's something you really want, it's so true. It's going to be harder than you thought. It's going to be more expensive than you thought. It's always going to take longer than you thought.
Yep.
That's just real life. And so often, one of those three, if not all of them, are what derails people from realizing a dream. And they just do revisionist history and say, oh, well, here's why it didn't work. And tell themselves a different story that makes them not part of the problem.
What would you say is in the organizations that you've seen to get someone from, let's say, not at a place of tenacity, not at a place of perseverance and being willing to do whatever it takes, and they were at this moment of giving up or practically giving up, but then something happened, something shifted, they found a resource, a connection, something. What would you say would be the best way to get people to that place of grit and determination and tenacity to be able to persevere through more hardship?
So it's not going to be externally imposed, right? You're not going to, organizations try and create fear-based, extinction if we don't do this. Right. Or they try and create, very cheesy, inspirational, let's all take the hill, well, we number one. But typically, if somebody's not connected some deeper sense of purpose and belief and desire to, it's not going to happen. Nice. So, whenever I hear managers say, Bill's just not motivated, I'm like, And if I were to go watch Bill on the weekend, what would I see? He'd be out with soccer players. He'd be with his friends. He'd be running marathons. I'm like, oh, okay. So Bill's motivated. Bill's just not motivated with you. So the problem may not be Bill,
No.
so then the question is, have you asked Bill? Does Bill even know what it would take to produce that same level of energy and motivation here? Or what is it about this place that causes Bill to leave it home?
Wow.
Bill doesn't. Nobody gets up in the morning and comes to work and says, "Now, how can I really be the most lazy, useless, bored, disinterested, ambivalent person today?" Nobody's saying that,
No.
right? So if people are, but we also know 70% of the workforce is disengaged. We've heard that stat for years now. It's not getting a whole lot better. Maybe it's 68% now. And of those people who are checked out, some of them are actively checked out. They're looking to sabotage, right? They're not just looking to punch the clock.
Right.
Well, that's not an accident, right? Nobody wants to come to work and feel that way. So if there's some disconnect between some person's sense of contribution, purpose, meaning, we've heard now for years people want to have meaning in work. Well, what are you doing to help them find it? So it starts at a fundamental level, right? Are they in the right job? Is it possible for the meaning they want to have in the world to be found in that job? And if not, that's a different conversation. But at least there's got to be some self-perpetuating sense of energy about why I do this and what I love about it.
Yeah.
Then if it's I love this work, I love this job, but I hate you as my boss, we have a different issue.
Yeah.
But you've got to start with making sure the fundamentals of what somebody would need to choose motivation are in place.
Yeah.
And you have to ask that for those in their whatever workplace they're in, have to ask that for themselves. Do I have what I need? And do I even know what that is? So often if you ask people, why do you do this? Well, it's just I took the job out of college, and next thing I know, I was married with 2 kids and a mortgage, so that's what I do. And I'm like, okay, so you understand when you turn 40, you're probably going to have a heart attack and be really upset and depressed. If this doesn't change at 31, when you're 40, I'm telling you, you'll be getting a referral to a therapist if we're lucky.
Yeah.
So you could interrupt that pathway now and make some different choices. But it's crazy, Chris, how often I hear people whose life just suddenly went on cruise control. And then they wake up at 42 and go, what? And it's sad.
Yeah.
And so to your question, now is the time much earlier in your career to make sure what you need to sustain energy and passion and commitment and a sense of your meaning in the world. What do you want your fingerprint on the world to be every day?
Yeah.
If you haven't answered those questions, the answers are not going to just show up on your doorstep for you. And as much as listening to Chris Burns, Burn It Up podcast is going to inspire you, it still requires more work to go into the questions. You have to do it.
Yeah.
And if you haven't answered those questions, for goodness sake, take the time to find out.
Heck yeah.
And it's not your boss's job to answer for you.
Yeah, it's literally like the daily practice of it. Like, say, okay, I'm not where I want to be. I don't have the answers. I'm not fulfilled. Starting today, I take 5 minutes, whatever time I got, to start journaling about this, because I am not going to tolerate being a boat adrift at sea, because this don't work.
and you know what? You may have to say, and in a month from now, it's all going to be resolved, right? That's foolish. It's probably more like, okay, a year from now, I'm going to take a full year to build the life I want by first figuring out what that is. But to think that I'm going to go read a couple of self-help books, listen to a Tony Robbins podcast, go see a mindfulness coach and whatever, and it's in 2 months from now, I'm going to be a whole different me. Yeah. That's silly.
No.
There are people who want it, but it's not possible.
And what you said about the overnight success really takes 10 years. Like, you say a year, but I've been on this like entrepreneurship journey for 6 years, and I'm still like, dude, why am I here? I think it's a lifelong pursuit. It's like it's a decision.
But at least in a year, you could at least be on a more defined path that you chose.
Totally.
Versus a conveyor belt that's carrying you along. And then from that path, you then can parlay it into more and more, whatever your earning potential, your impact potential, your influence potential, whatever way you want to maximize or how you want to measure your satisfaction. At least then you can begin that process. But if you're in a place where you can't even figure out why you're there and how you got there, that's more fundamental work.
Yeah, yeah, that's powerful, powerful distinction, man. What is one of your favorite types of leaders to work with, and why?
Curious ones. So I definitely have a bias toward super smart people. I love the brainiacs. I do, because it's like people who go to museums. I'm just fascinated by their brains.
Yeah.
So I love, but they're curious. They just want to know more. So, and if they're insatiably curious, which makes them often impulsive, I can work with that. And a little bit of a thick skin, because I'm not. So working with me is not, it's not you're gonna feel the weight of my foot. And so people who are looking for the gentle, kind, sweet, encouraging, consultant and coaches, I'm not the guy. And so, but the people who want to be pushed and challenged, I'll respect you, and I'll tell you when you're doing great. But rest assured, a year from now, if things haven't changed, we're going to know long before that I'm the wrong guy for you. Yeah. So people who want to figure out what the frontiers of their own greatness is and want to go find it, those are people I'm inspired by. And I want to be inspired. I mean, I want to do great work for my clients and serve them well, but I want them to inspire me.
Yeah, well, it's like you're building your life too, and since you're building your life, you're engineering and designing who you want to surround yourself with, and it only makes sense that you surround yourself with, when you're creating your life, the people who most inspire you, who motivate you, who ignite that fire. And at Burn Up Coaching, we have a phrase: "The truth doesn't hurt; it burns." It's like it's gonna burn. Get ready for the burn. Get ready for that truth, because if
I tell my clients, the truth will only set you free if you tell it.
Right. That's right. Ooh.
You hide the truth and it won't set you free.
No.
And part of the reason I hired that coach 3 years ago, part of the problem I felt like there must have been a sign on the back that said "Sociopaths welcome," because I seem to be attracting the most like nutso clients. That I see them in the caller ID. I'm like, oh, I don't want to take this call. I'm like, life's too short. I get that for people early in their career, consultants who are still cutting their teeth, you need those kinds of clients. They shape you, they thicken you up, they toughen you up, they make you a smart consultant. I'm done with that. I have all the thick skin I need. I don't need sociopaths. I want to work with good-hearted people. I don't care I don't need, status branded companies. I'm not looking to build my masthead. I just want people who, when I see them in the caller ID, I'm like, oh yeah, this will be fun.
Yeah. And
I want to enjoy them, and I want to help them get better and help them reach their dreams. And when I go to bed at night, I don't want to have a nut in my stomach. Well, it turns out that's a little bit harder than I thought. A lot of sociopaths out there. But there's a lot of great leaders out there too, who do want help. And that's who I'm looking to discover.
How do you define like influence and impact? Like what does that mean for you?
For me, it's did I leave? I mean, on a daily basis, did I leave some part of the world better than I found it? Did an idea that I have help somebody unlock a place of being stuck? Did a piece of encouragement I offered help somebody, dig a little deeper? Did a piece of feedback that I had to offer help somebody, snap in a review from a place of being maybe wrong-minded or misguided? So it's a tangible evidence of did somebody's path or some community's organization's path get a little straighter and clearer because I crossed it.
When you were younger, what would you have had to do to be more of that person, more influential?
Be less concerned about what other people thought. One of my mentor, the woman who is still my mentor today, she's almost 80, but she's, going on 40 and a feisty, brilliant woman. But she's been she's been riding my tails and pushing me for 30 something years. And, I'm grateful for her. And she told me early on, nothing in life is irrevocable except death. And, you get do-overs, right? Yeah. Not everything, but you get far more do-overs than you think you do. Yeah. And if you spend half the energy you spend worrying about what's going to happen if you try something, or what someone's going to think if you try something, and just do it, not disrespectfully or callously or self-indulgently, but not so fearfully and self-protectively either. You're going to be a lot more influential and a lot more joyful than you think.
Yeah, that is so freaking powerful, and I think that boils it down, because so many people are saying, don't care what other people think. It's like, okay, we've heard that, but what do we do instead? But this nothing in life is irrevocable except death is like, wait a second, like I can do just about anything and like bounce back from it. There's like really nothing that can stop me. So it's like, go out and take those actions, take those bold actions, send that email, or make that criticism of whoever is in need of it, to make that difference in their path, to support them with love, right? Like you said, with love and compassion and respect, but still like drive that point home.
I think if you are somebody who tends to freeze up because there's, that narrative in your head is telling you, is giving you warnings, stop that, because that narrative is not random, right? And so if there's a narrative that's telling you about your inadequacy, or about how others perceive you, or about what would happen, what the consequence would be if you tried something, there's a reason you've bought into that tape, right? And you've got to go dig it out. That tape's not going to go, it's going to get better with age, and it's going to get momentum. And so if you want to rescript that narrative, you've got to understand how it got there in the first place. And there are belief structures that are false. And so if there's a fear-based, voice in your head that's saying, people are not going to want to hear from you about that, or no one's going to take you seriously if you try that. That's not just generalized insecurity, right? If there's a pattern of those kinds of tapes, they got there somehow. Yeah. You learned them. Yeah. And your willpower to sort of, no, I am good, no, I am good, no, I am good, is not going to work. They're going to win. And so you've got to go at those voices harder and confront them. Because it's like a bully. Until you stand up to a bully, it's not going to back down. And somehow you have to disconnect the mechanism that keeps that tape playing by confronting how it got there in the first place, and then you can rescript it to something more truthful. Otherwise, you will condition yourself to believe those messages even when they're not true. Yeah. And I think what you said is, like, basically I heard take action in spite of the fear so that you can overcome the fear. Is action the only way, or do you recommend, like, because I think action seems... And I think it's confront the fear. Don't trying to ignore the fear is going to be short-lived, right? And sometimes your actions may be reckless and impulsive then, just to show them. But if the fear is strong and you have to work harder than you should to surmount it, to act, then you have to confront the fear and confront it hard. The action to take would be to look it in the face and figure out, what is it and how did I get there? How did I learn to be afraid of this? To be afraid of my own voice, to be afraid of that person. Typically when I work with clients on this stuff, there are patterns, right? Yeah. So it's not just that you're afraid of being influential. I'm afraid of being influential with this kind of content, with these kinds of people, and these kinds of settings. Right? There are triggers. Yeah. And you have to know what those patterns are and how you became conditioned to fear them, or to distrust them, or to be anxious around them, or to avoid them. Yeah. And if you're not doing the work on you to fine tune that, your influence in the world will be short lived. Wow.
So the work on us would be like journaling or self-reflection, stuff like that, to be able to find that source?
On our website, we have a free ebook. If you come to www.navalent.com/transformation, there's a free ebook. Okay. Leading Transformation. And the whole first chapter is on rescripting narratives. It's a whole toolkit on how do I figure out at some deeper level how that tape got there, slow down enough to listen to what it's telling you. Yeah. Read it out. Wow. And ask yourself, who taught me that? How did I learn that? And begin to say, if I wanted a different narrative, what would it be? Wow. It's real work. Sometimes it means seeing a life coach or a therapist or somebody having a guide help you with that. But just trying to will yourself over the anxiety, the insecurity, or medicate yourself over it, not helpful and not sustainable. Wow.
Oh, powerful, powerful. Ron, so we're beginning to wrap up here, dude. You're sharing the gold, the wisdom. It's a blast of a conversation. Love your sense of humor. It's really, really great. So let's begin to drive it home. What are the final takeaways we want our audience to receive?
Gosh, if you're running your own organization and leadership, do the work to understand your identity. What differentiates you. Organize your work to protect your competitive work, and it's okay to standardize. You're not going to lose the entrepreneurial vibe if you do. Build leadership beneath you. Don't be the only leadership around. Build leaders beneath you. Even if you're a solopreneur, have other people leading parts of your work that you don't have to or shouldn't be. Outsource your accounting. Work on you. Understand how others experience you. Get feedback. Calibrate. Find out if the intentions you have are matched by the impact you're having, and if they're not, fix it. If you're being held back by your own, if you're saying to yourself, "Why do I do that? I said I wanted to stop that." Well, whatever you're doing, there's a reason for it. Figure out what it is. Figure out what tape is telling you it's okay to do that behavior, and change it. Don't just assume that the beautiful, cute charm of you is going to rule the day. At some point, that idiosyncrasy is going to be annoying enough to somebody where it's going to cause you a problem.
Yeah.
Those kinds of idiosyncrasies don't get better with age. They just get stronger. So deal with it now while it's earlier in your career or less of a problem.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So, Ron, people are loving you. I'm loving you. How do we stay connected? What do we do next?
Yeah, so let's keep chatting. Navalent, NAVALENT.com is where you can come hang out with us. We've got a great quarterly magazine you can have on all kinds of stuff on leadership and entrepreneurship and teams and strategy. We have a great blog. You can have the free ebook at navalent.com/transformation. If you're somebody who's aspiring to lead, aspiring to sort of rise up, have bigger influence, we're starting a brand new cohort later this year called Rising Together. And it's for those leaders who want to, at one day, rule the world. They want to have bigger influence. And they're somehow in the middle of their career now. So navalent.com/rising together. Come check it out. Apply. There's a few spots left for next year's cohort. It's a really great deal. This is our way of giving back to say we're going to manufacture tomorrow's leaders because the companies aren't making them, and it's doing it at cost. We're not making any money on it. But we're going to take you through a whole year of development, of assessment, of feedback, of coaching, and we're going to accelerate your leadership influence in the world over a full year. And so if that's attractive, come check it out as well. Twitter at Ron Carucci. I'm on LinkedIn. So let's keep chatting.
Beautiful. Ron, you are the man. Thank you so much for bringing the fire, the wisdom, the fun, and just what you do in the world, the transformation, man. I appreciate you, and we will see you very, very soon. All over the news, all over interviews, all over everywhere, man. You're blowing up, man. Keep it up.
Thanks, Chris. Great to be with you. Have a great day.
Awesome. Take care, brother.